Welcome to the Strategy Investment Podcast with Brett Warner. Brett is a successful entrepreneur, an investor, and he and his team have sold over $1 billion in real estate. That's exactly what this show is about, investing, real estate, and family finance. Hey, my name is Jason, along here with you to ask questions and learn as much as possible. And whether you're listening on the podcast or watching online, we're just so glad that you're here. And today we've actually got a real treat because we are going to do what we're calling this episode is the Kitsap case study. And we have today a new voice, really. Well, your voice has probably been on a couple of times, Kylie, but Kylie is our producer. Hi, Kylie.
Hello.
And Kylie's actually in the midst of a real estate transaction. And we thought, Brett, we've got you, the in-house expert. We are going to do a case study today. We're going to like walk through this, kind of where she's at, what you think, what you would recommend, and just walk through this thing.
I like it.
Yeah,
that sounds fun.
Now, Kylie,
Yes.
you were sharing with me earlier just the impact even of being part of this show. Talk a little bit about that. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So I would say probably where I was at before this show started, I had never bought any stocks. I am a saver. It is something I find so much joy in. But I would say I didn't really know where to save. So just from getting to be on the sidelines and watching this show kind of develop and from having some side conversations, even with Brett and even with Jason, I really have grown and developed some different strategies just with my family from listening to this podcast. So it kind of started, I will just give a little bit of an open book to who I am.
Yes.
I know that there's a lot of other friends and people I've even had conversations with that are like, oh, tell me how it goes because that's something I want to do. So that's kind of where this show developed, where we said, hey, we live in Kitsap County. Let's do a Kitsap case study on myself and see how it goes. So 4 years ago, we bought a house. It was listed at $300,000. And I actually wrote a letter, right? I don't know if you've gotten letters before, but I put a picture of my husband, our 2 kids. I threw the dog in the photo. I wrote this letter about how much I loved this property. And I sent it to this family. And we did not have $300,000. Our max was about $265,000. And so we just said, let's throw a Hail Mary is what we called it. Yeah. And we sent the letter in and they actually picked us over the full priced offer. And again, there was some contingencies there. We overlooked some things and we'll do the work and like that. But we really felt so excited and blessed that we had that. So we have had this house for 4 years and we have absolutely loved it, but we are running into outgrowing our home.
Okay.
And so just from listening to this podcast, listening to you, I've kind of decided that this money we have set aside to put into the house and really, fix it up. Would that money be better spent selling it and using it maybe as a down payment on something else? So case study is me right now. We are in the middle of doing minor little tiny touch-ups to the house to potentially put it on the market in the spring. And our dream is to buy a perfect lot of land and build a home on it.
Okay.
So that is just kind of an overview of where I am at right now.
All right, Brett.
In spring. Build home by June.
Yeah, if the house could be built in 30 days, I'd be like,
30 days later, she wants to move in. Brett, take it away. Can you do it?
Okay, before you laugh at that, I'm just kidding. No,
I
should note though that I do have family. We own a trailer. Like there's options.
There's ways to do it. All right, Brett. We're just gonna stop there. All right, you're her broker. You're You're here to help. What questions would you ask? How would you advise?
Wow, what went through my head and what you were saying.
So many things, right?
Yeah. So, first of all,
Yeah.
let's look at these things real quick. As you just told me, I'm going to touch on them real quick because that's what I would generally do with somebody.
Right.
So the photo and the thing you took, it's actually illegal to do. Put in a photo because they don't like families anymore. We actually, our Congress just said no more family can't be used in that word, or these different things.
Oh, you mean the letter I wrote
the letter
to the
you
family?
wrote,
So
yes.
that was illegal.
Oh yeah, in a sense, yeah, because they could take your offer because they like that family better than this other family.
Oh.
And the thing is it does happen.
Okay.
And that's where a broker might come in. And I say illegal. Well, it happens out there, but you really shouldn't get into, hey, I'm this kind of family. We're this old. I got 3 kids. Because then
Exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you might
Good to
say,
know,
hey,
though.
we're
This is really good for
Yeah.
people.
new to the area. We
Right.
love. You could talk about how much you love the home, and we're going to enjoy
okay.
the home, but you really shouldn't get into because of the way our
Yeah.
systems and our powers at hand today. They say that the word family is bad. I
it.
necessarily don't think that, but I have to tell you the laws, and I think that so.
So, Brett, the
anytime
idea of a
it's-
letter-
the letter is how much you love the property,
Right.
and how easy you'll make it for them to sell.
Right,
to you.
okay,
The
so-
moment you bring in family status.
Right.
Or any of the
or whatever
these
components are
protected
taking part there. Okay, so the idea of the letter might be a good
You didn't
idea.
know we were going there, did you?
I didn't
No,
know,
that's
but
great.
I'm glad we're talking about this because
Yeah.
I actually forwarded that letter yesterday to a friend who's trying to buy a house right now. And I was like, here's what I sent. Do
yeah.
the same thing. So I'm going to call them afterwards. But this is really
Well,
great
their
to
broker
hear.
might say, do it.
Okay.
All right, but the broker
Right.
should tell them.
That's
Realize that you can be in a lot of trouble
Okay.
if they take your offer and it said, hey, we're a
Family,
high
the
class,
photo.
this, and you probably shouldn't. You should certainly not get into your colors and these
Right,
things,
Right.
right.
Your purple or green.
Yes.
Really, you should just these when you're
Talk
thinking,
about the home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
Why
honestly,
you love
they might-
why you love the home. So the if you write a letter like that, what you're saying is make sure it's really focused on why you love the home.
Yes. If
Not-
you start getting into your what are the protected class sorts of things, you want to be careful.
That's really good.
Good,
Okay.
good. Okay, so that was the first thing. What else?
Now,
Where
but
would you
the-
go next?
The client can insist, and then it becomes this, well, you go legal counsel, and it's really up to the ethics of that broker. So
Right.
the broker can say, "You're nuts, Brett." And I'm like, "Well, I'm telling you what the protections
To keep,
the way
yeah.
Washington is written. Every state is different. There's federal laws in every state. They deep set and longer. Washington being on the West Coast, we are going to have more
Right.
inclusiveness in that.
Because again, this is Kitsap
Yeah,
case
making
study,
the
so-
minors out. Like, yeah, absolutely.
All right. What else? What else stuck out?
Okay, so down payment, how much is that about? If you're okay sharing that, or you can give a fake number if you want, and I'll work with that.
Yeah, I'm okay talking about specifics. I actually have an appointment soon to meet with a loan officer to really look through how much. But as of right now, I mean, everything I've looked at is looking like 20% down on whatever property we have.
Correct.
I don't have a perfect ballpark.
Okay.
What I wanted was somewhere around 100 to 150,000 for the property. But it sounds
Yeah, see, here's the
It
thing.
sounds like
you're putting
that's
all your
kind of a
money into one
unicorn.
egg. Yeah, you're putting all
Yeah.
your money into one egg.
Right.
And so, I mean, you got your house and you got that lovely thing you want to. First of all, you're going to sell your asset here, like coming this quarter, and then that if it's a good year, then you're going to be down. If it's 400,000, it goes up 5% or 10%, it's 20 to 40,000 in gains. So the year that you're building the house, having your money locked up, you didn't grab the appreciation in the home that you sold to get the $120,000.
Right.
So now you got this dream going on out here. You got this nice shiny object saying, "Hey, well, that thing's really calling me."
Yes.
But the thing is there's going to be a lot of effort into that. It's going to probably take you a year at best, and 2 possibly,
Okay.
because you'll have to wait for 1 full spring. You'll start to do your paperwork. You'll start to do so. It ain't happening this spring unless you're already on it like last week.
Okay.
Because when the rains start to come, then everybody stops, and you can't bring the trucks. And so, like right now, we're on a stop, so you'd be kind of prepping out. Come here. Now, if you really knew everybody knew what you're doing, you could probably get it done in 6 months. If you had a development going on, it's just one after another.
Right.
But that people, you don't have that. So,
Right.
So you're basically locking up 150,000
Mm-hmm.
right now, and selling an asset that's worth 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you don't have 150 because you're gonna get the 150 from selling that thing, but that asset is still growing.
Right.
So the 20% down on a property in your young 30s is, Yeah, it's not putting your money to the best work.
Okay.
Now, if you got a dream on that, then I mean, the reason why land looks like it's a good deal right now here in Kitsap is that we have been in an escalating market for 7-8 years now, certainly now. And so it's actually gotten cheaper to actually buy a yucky piece of land. And even if it's a decent piece of land with a modular on it, that you would, you basically, the price per square foot has gone up so much that the land looks good.
Right.
But when this market shifts back and we go about 2 years into this and there's not so much stimulus and there's going to be bonds going up and who knows what really will happen. But then that will come back and you can actually buy a house that you're paying for $350 a square foot. If you just wait a year, you might be able to pick up that house for $200 a square foot.
Hey,
Well,
Brett,
I
Or
would-
maybe 200 to
love-
100. Because I tell you, I was selling properties here just 7
Right.
years ago at $70 a square foot. They're $350 today.
Well, I want to talk about that because specifically in this area, I have been on Redfin, on Zillow, all the different sites. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you both have a little bit more knowledge on real estate, but it seems like you cannot get a home in Kitsap County that is not an absolute fixer-upper for like less than around $400,000. That is what I've been seeing. And so that's why my wheels started turning where I'm thinking, okay, what if we were able to find a piece of property and used a company? I would not be building the home myself. I probably should have mentioned that. But hiring a company like Highline to come out and build the house. Their homes range. I have a certain one in
Right.
mind that
A
I
floor plan.
absolutely love. A floor
Yeah.
plan that I've walked and been in it, and I've seen it, and I love it. And that ranges from 180 to 200,000 for that home. So that's why I'm trying to think. If I was able to buy a piece of property for 150,000, bought that house. Now I'm still within the 300,000 to 400,000 range.
Yep. Yep.
And I could have the home that I really want versus finding something that is like
Yeah, maybe on a nice piece of land.
$500,000 and it is a fixer upper,
And you
know.
can pass tea out through the window, right? Yeah, to your neighbor.
Pass-
Two
oh,
arm,
yes.
two arm lengths. You want some sugar? Yeah, exactly. Because there's 8 feet between the houses.
No, I don't want that.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. You
Oh,
don't want,
yes.
You don't want that, yeah.
You want to put your Highland home.
Yes, on a lot of land.
There's many of builders that are like kind of pre-imagined in what you're saying when you say
Right.
Highline Home. They have packages. They usually have 10. There's like 4 companies in this area, and you'd go pick those houses
Right.
out. They kind of help you do it. I would tell you when you mention Highline and others, you need to be out there the day they pour the foundation. I've seen them pour them backwards. I've seen them pour them 7 feet off
that's
the
really
place.
good.
So be there.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing if you hire one of these people, because the thing, generally the house goes okay. Sometimes they're not built to quite the quality of these other things.
Right.
But make sure you're there the day they're
Right.
pouring the foundation.
Right.
Okay, because I've
Yeah.
seen it like offset or the view, and they're like, well, I want it, and there's no going back once the cement goes in.
Got
I
it.
guess you could, but it's
It would be
Yeah,
really
it's-
hard.
Concrete's one of those things.
Nope,
Yeah.
that's
And then
really good advice.
and then
I'm adding it down.
And the fact that when you're doing like a Highland home, you're not going to do too many adjustments on your walls and stuff, or if you have your own drawings, it's really easy to get up there and go, gosh, the closet's not as big. Can we move it 5 more feet? Change order. Once they do the change order, then that changes your whole price, and that's why they say set your price, add 20%. So when you're building a house, and I would tell you add 25.
25%.
Yeah. And if you're very detailed, you might want to add 30.
Depending.
Yes.
So I mean, seriously, and it's a good number. And if you didn't spend it, then you got the money in the end,
Right.
to invest in stock or into something else. But the thing is that really you're putting $150,000. You're locking that all up into there, and when you're done in 2 years, you're going to have a house that's still worth what it's worth. Mm-hmm. So right now you have a house that has how much equity does your house have in?
We are hoping to sell it for $450,
Yeah, you bought it for.
$265.
Yeah, so you got $150,000. You're gonna lock all that up, all your equity, and go right into one little egg. And so you can do that. But I'm telling you, in my mindset, it's like, well, why would you take all your when you can go buy another house for 3% down, save money for the next 4 months, go find that $500,000 house, put $15,000, take owner occupancy in it, and you got the house. Or do you want that beautiful house and be broke when you're 50?
I don't.
When you
I
put
don't
it
wanna
that
be
way, Brett.
broke when I'm 50. Yeah.
No, I'm kind of kidding, but
There's
but
no
okay.
sugarcoating.
Let's back up a sec, Brett. Okay, because I want to unpack that for a second.
Yeah, that's really good.
Right. Because you said
See, I didn't mean to offend you.
No. This is we're all friends. So we knew this would be an honest conversation. because you said 3% down when right now in this market it's typically, like you said, Kylie, is requiring 20% down. How did you get to that 3% instead of 20?
Land is 20 to 30% down, depending on where you're at and what you're buying. You could get somebody to carry back, and then they could carry in a second position at 10, get yourself to 10% down. So this is where you get creative financing. You could even ask them to carry it all. There's all sorts of things you could do. But by you locking that money up, essentially... Question one more time.
Yeah, we went from 20% down to 3% down. I want you to expand on that a little bit.
Okay, owner occupied. So, okay, since it's not your first home, you're not going to get the 3%. But what we can do is probably get you a 5% owner occupied or a 10%. Have you talked to your lender about that?
I haven't I haven't gone into that part yet.
They're probably going to tell you 5 or 7, but then when we buy, in this market, you're going to probably increase your price a little bit if you love the house as much as you love this land you're talking about. And then we'll ask them to cover 3% of your closing costs. If they're willing, you would narrow it down to 4% down. So now you got now what you could do is you could take a line of credit out of your house that you have, owning that asset that has 150,000. That egg is now growing little leaves. It's you got.
Oh, you're not saying sell my house.
No, he's saying take some of the equity out. So take a loan against the equity that you have in the house.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So so you're going to sell your house. I'm not going to sell your house. You're going to refi your house because you got a lot of cash in that thing. No. So you're going to get a refi of $50,000. And people say, "Don't touch that stuff." I'm like, "Well, okay, then leave it all locked up and then go save it then." But I can't save that fast. I'm like, "Well, I know."
Cash out refi.
Yes,
cash out refi.
You hit that maximum point. So you do a cash out refi, or you don't even have to do a cash out refi. You live there, right? Right now, you live there.
Yes.
So you go get an owner occupied equity line of credit.
Okay.
And you leave that equity line of credit in there, and you don't even have to pull out the $100,000. It's a line of credit on your house if an emergency comes or whatever. And when it really starts to rain, the bank will say, "Oh, we're pulling all those. Nobody has those." So don't wait for the rainy, stormy, heavy day because they pull. If you were around in 2010, you'll remember that. But essentially, you'll be taking out $50,000, leaving $100,000 in that egg.
Okay.
Also leaving you a nest egg of emergency money, $50,000, because you pulled a line of credit up to 70%. So let's say you got 150, you can maybe pull let's just say 70,000 for easy money. So you got 40,000 to put in the house, you got 30,000. So your new house, you're taking this is like, where are you getting the money? Well, I'm getting it from my line of credit.
Okay.
It's often referred to as a HELOC.
Okay, I've heard of a HELOC.
Home equity line.
Now you take that money and you go buy your new home. You take that money, and now while you're still the owner of that house, you can go buy your other house and put down your $5,000. Not using all your own money, but using the equity that you have
because of the 3 to 5%.
Exactly. And then if you get in there and you have a good bonus or a good year, you can pay off your equity line of credit and just own this other house and have your first loan, having that loan down at a great interest rate because you bought it. Because the moment you go into investors, which is 20% down, which is a higher interest rate. Right now, it's not. It's incredible times to
owning
do this.
2 homes, though, so then one would be more of a rental property.
Correct. The one you live in would become a rental property.
Okay.
And now you could say, I'm going to sell it, I'm going to take my money. Some people will argue, well, take all your tax-free credit. I'm like, well, I don't know. Is net worth better to grow over time, or do you want to take tax-free now? And so
finding the home.
And then you got 5 years to sell that home.
Okay.
So you lived in it for 2 out of 5. The problem is once you start renting it out, there'll become a little bit of taxation on it because you're crossing over. You do it the other way around, then it becomes an owner occupancy, and you can get your $500 or your $250.
Okay, so this is a great line of thinking, and I absolutely love it. I wrote down a bunch of notes. I do want to go back to though.
This is your life, Kylie.
I know.
Ask your
this
questions.
Is so great. This is great. I hope the listeners are as appreciative of this wealth of knowledge that I am. But I just want to go back to, so building versus buying in the open market. You're saying it is better to try and keep the asset you have, do more of a HELOC to keep both instead of, because you keep saying locking up my money.
Because you're 20% down. That's like that's all your net worth.
It's all of it.
You might have some money put over here in a savings or something, but it's not probably like $50,000.
Right.
So this is taking all your money and putting it into that. And if that's your dream, don't let me get in the way of it.
No, my dream is to have a home.
I say that because I have a lot of opinions, and I tell you, my opinion doesn't mean that's right for you.
Yes.
And so that home there is, because here's the thing. Now, Watch this. Watch
Okay.
this. Watch it. You had that one house. You said it's worth 400.
Yeah.
Right. How much did that house
Praying
go?
450.
Yeah, 450. Now that house goes. Let's just say 400 for easy math.
Okay.
So you have that house for 400,000.
Yes.
That's going to go up. Let's just say this year is a fair year. I know we have down years, but I'm just
Right.
to keep
Just
my math
average year,
easy,
yeah.
I'm just going to say 5%. That house goes up 5%.
Okay.
How much is your net worth going into 2022? 20, it'd be 420. I'll make I'll help you with math.
Yeah. Yep.
So because 5% is 20,000.
Yeah.
So now your nest egg is 20,000 more. You didn't do anything but own that house.
Right.
Now, right now, some people are working like 4 months for 20,000. Some people are working like half the year for 20,000. That house sitting there. But now you go buy another house with that equity. You take that equity over here and you go, okay, I got 15,000. I'll talk to my banker, make sure all that stuff looks good.
Right.
And that's why it's good to have a good broker because they're looking at these other ends. And you say, okay, I got 15,000 and I got a little bit in savings here. I'll put all that. There's my down payment, 3%. Now they only need 15,000, not 115.
Right.
Hit 150. Now you have about how much are the house you're looking for? Like 450 is what you can probably qualify.
Yeah.
All right, and it sounds about right because that's kind of how wages go as you get older.
Right.
So now you buy a 450 house. Let's just say you stretch it because interest rates are down right now, and they truly are. And you probably could lock in a 30-year at an all-time, never again seen 2% interest rate.
Ooh.
Be able to go
Crazy.
brag all
Yes, please.
Go brag all to your friends about how low it is.
Yeah.
You won't get that on a land loan. You certainly will not be able to borrow that. because it's
Interesting.
a
Why
home-
not?
It's more risky.
Oh.
Nothing
They're
there
building
yet.
a
Buying
house.
raw land.
Yeah, you got a lot of
Okay.
stuff to do, and they don't know where the
Which-
project's going to end.
That's where the 20% down comes in,
Exactly.
just because of the risk.
But now here's
Well,
the big key.
yeah.
Here's the big key.
Probably more, but
Now you got a $400,000 house. Now you got a $450,000 house. They all the 2022. Just to keep it on normal math, not 15% year, not a
Okay.
negative 5% year.
Yes.
We're just going to say 5% because if we look at the last 50 years, it's probably like 5% that real estate's gone up. So now you had in 2022, 900,000 grow at 5%. How much did you make without lifting in your hands? You just made 40,000, and all you did was live in one house and rent out the other. And you don't even have to rent it out. You can give it to your grandma to rent it out. Fine, go, Grandma, what are you paying at rent down there? Oh, well, I'll give you a house here. And you don't mind putting $100,000 into the house if you know Grandma, you're helping Grandma.
Right.
You don't mind if your kid's living in there. Like I'll be going in a phase of my life where I'll help my kids. And
Right.
I don't mind, help offset anything because I know that property I can actually spend, unless it's a down year, I could spend $5,000 a year looking like the king and the nice guy that I am, and I'm making $25,000 by owning the property.
right.
But remember, there's a
Man,
new
that's
roof that can come in
interesting.
there, and there's the other things that can happen. So you have to watch your conditions.
Yes.
This is why the broker's important.
Yes.
And they're saying, hey, did you see those gutters? Did you see the hill? You see all the trees are leaning this way? And things like that.
You know what? I did, just for our listeners, if anyone is out there looking at properties right now, specifically in this Kitsap
I wanted to touch on
area,
this. I'm so glad you're going here.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to go Pacific Northwest. One thing I learned, when you see trees on the property, especially if there's slopes, which I have looked at 10 properties in the last week. Every single one was sloped. It's like hills. There's so, I feel like that is
land,
just the area
I think
we
in
live
general,
in.
right? Because you've got the rain. So if you're looking at a piece of property in the middle of the summer, it's going to look a little different when
Right.
we're, in the middle of the winter when we're getting all the rain. It's the slope. It's also will the land hurt? We can. I'd love to. This is an important.
She's going to the trees.
I'm
She's
going
okay.
trees. I'm
she's
going
going
trees.
If they're leaning
This
out
is-
that way, let her get to the
All right.
I'm leaning out. I go to there. Okay, so if you're watching us online, then you can see my hand. If not, I'm going to try and describe it. But so you look for trees. If a tree has a bend like in the middle of it, and then it grows up straight again, so it's like whoop. That's showing that the ground has shifted underneath it, because trees they're going to keep growing no matter what. But if the ground has shifted over years of time, you'll see a
bend in the tree.
a bend in the tree, and then it grows straight
Wow.
again. So on some of the properties I've looked at, we saw a whole line of trees that had that bend, showing us that this
Oh my gosh, I
ground
did
over
not
a
know
long
that.
time has shifted.
Or you'll see on a hillside that's more recent. That would be like if it happened 50 years ago, 25
okay.
years ago. So you're seeing a shift. The good part is it may be found its ground,
Yeah.
took position, roots got back in there and held that ground. It doesn't mean it's there forever.
Right.
But what I'd say is what's more worrisome is you see a trip tipping out. So you see it like if you're on a riverbank and you see it tipping towards the river
Right.
and the hill's going the opposite direction, that's not good. They want to
No.
be drawing up because that means the hill is slowly, and that's probably more recent sliding. The truth
Right.
is, you know, if you're a broker and you're out looking at properties and they haven't mentioned to you a geotech and you're looking at the hillsides, if you're looking at flat property, they don't mention it, that's okay. But
If you can find flat property.
if you can find, that's the problem. And then when you buy land on a slope, you can be looking at a foundation that on a normal house might be 10, 15 to 1,000. Well, now you got like a wall in the back that's 10 feet tall. So your foundation can run you 65,000. So you got to make sure you know your foundation cost, which is the most important of that part of the house.
Right.
And so that foundation can literally cost you 3-4 times the amount. So you got a good deal on the land, but guess what? The foundation you're going to put in is going to cover the difference. And so those are the things that we'll watch
It's
out.
safe to say there's a lot of hidden fees or
And I just want, and one more thing, most brokers don't say this, and there's not enough of them out there. It's to get a geotech. If you're out there and you're thinking about building a house, but if your broker hasn't mentioned to you about a geotech and you're looking at land along the side of a river where there's a lot of earthquakes, I mean, there's different like points out here around.
Creeks even.
Creeks too, but especially like little spits that'll come out. Some of them are made all on sand. Others are rock. So you can buy the sand, but realize when that earthquake comes, and it might not be another 1,000 years, but it's going to become like jelly. Your house is going to be 4 feet under the ground. And I can tell you the different points out here because we have these little land points that Puget Sound comes in, and I know which ones are made of sand because I've been doing this for 20 years. Other brokers are like, this is great. And it's like, well, actually, you're building your house on sand. But I only know that, but really, I shouldn't be telling them. I should say, go get a geotech. And there's ways around that. They have these big spikes you can put in the ground. They go down about 30 feet. But guess what? Each one of those spikes are $5,000. So now your foundation was flat, but to get it there, and so my wife wanted at one time buy a house on sand, and she's like, oh, we want to, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these things. And I was looking into making sure that these like 9 pivot points go deep into the ground, and that would keep you from sinking when that thing comes.
So hire a geotech.
Well, especially if you're on a slope,
Yes.
right? I mean, and the slope is, I mean, there's times, like even by a river, I'd mention it, but if you're on a slope and it looks funky at all, I mean.
I'd also say the utilities, right, are another piece of thing or another factor when you're considering land. I mean, and that is a well. That is, I mean, all of these other components, right?
A well can cost anywhere, depending on where you're at. I'm just going to throw some numbers. It's probably gone up because sometimes I'm getting older and I will talk 5 years ago numbers. So, go ask your local company. But here it is. It's about, $100 to $150 a foot to drill. And so basically if somebody says, you go ask the neighbor, say, hey, how deep's your well? And they say, that's 250 feet. Ooh. 250 times 100 to drill that rill is going to cost me $25,000.
Right.
All right. Now, if it might be 150 now, so it might be 40,000.
Right.
And then you put
a septic.
Yeah, and then you got to put a well house up there and these other things. And depending on how good's the water, what's the water quality, you can find that out by the neighbor because it's going to be a similar vein under there probably that you're going to be picking up. You could get a different one and it'd be really sour water, but most likely you're going to hit. And if you go to the same depth, your water. And then septic systems.
Asking the neighbors.
Yeah, septic systems, depending on how close you're to the water, some of those systems can run you 40 to 50K. So if you buy a piece of land and somebody says, hey, I got a sewer on here, I got a septic on here, and I got a well that we drilled. Now make sure it's not a family well that was hand dug, 50 years ago, because there are bad wells out there. They work. But there's always something crawling in the water.
Oh,
it's just really micro. It's really micro.
My shiny dream.
We dug the family well 70 years ago,
150 feet deep. so yeah,
it works.
Yeah. Well, and people do. I mean, seriously, you'll go downtown. I just saw one last year. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But it was they came out, tested the water, and said, hey, this is really bad because you got this dip and the water and the leaves, and that does corrosion. I mean. If a spider drops in your well, it will fail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So then you got to do the bleaches and these other things. But we're talking about just building out a well. So if you have a well and you have a septic on a house, but you probably won't find a septic, but you could find a well more likely. I mean, you could almost say, oh, that's $50,000 in value.
Right there.
So you walk up and you go, okay, there's a piece of property that's $150,000 with nothing. Another piece of property looks similar, but it has these two things. Really, that's $75,000.
Right.
Because if those work.
It's been really hard to find properties that that offer a septic in them and or a well. Most things
that's
are.
why there's several guys out there that probably won't be happy that I mentioned this, but what they will do is, what they do is they find, and they send those letters, just like you said, but it's not let my family. It's like, hey, we want to buy your house now. You see them, we buy pigs and we buy this, and when do they call me now, sell your house all now? And basically, those people are picking up modular homes. Modular homes have water already to them. They have a septic system that can be recertified and run through if it's okay. So they'll run off, and then they'll pay you cash $100K. They'll turn around, throw that thing off, throw a new modular on there, and then they'll build the house. There's other people that are taking the tactic of saying, hey, I'll knock that down, I'll build my house, knowing that there's the $50K. If the lot's big enough, you could actually live in the modular while you build your house. And you could have bought the modular if it's older than 1980, because it can only be so old with getting loans still. But it might be 1978, but 1980 or newer, you could get a loan, and then you get in for 3%. Now you got your land. You start building your house on the other side of the acres.
Yes.
Now, Brett, okay, so I think and Kylie, you and I talked about this before the show, because we were talking about your exact kind of situation right now.
Case
and
study.
The Kylie case study.
It's the Kitsap case study.
But Brett, we were one of the things that we were talking about was building versus the open market right now, because the market is really has just gone up so much that it's almost like, man, unless you're at $450,000 or $500,000, it's hard to get into this market depending on where you are in Kitsap. So which way would you go there?
So with her, she really wanted the dream house.
Right. Yeah.
She's got to get my dream house. Well, how else can I do this?
Right.
We just walked into that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of times I'll think through things, and my answers are coming. I don't always have them at the very beginning. So here we are, and we said, how do we not spend that $150,000? How do we keep that nest egg, but you want a dream house? What's going to lock you down? It's going to give you less options, but how bad do you want a new house? How bad do you want? These are the things you weigh.
Yes.
And this is why it's important. You keep your focus on what's important. We're just passing through on my way.
Yes.
But it's kind of nice to make these little stops along the way and have these other things. So now what you could do is with your money, you could refi that house. You could get that HELOC, pull that money, you could pull it out and hold it, or you could sit there and wait till you need it. And then when you have it at the bank, you say, hey, I got my line here. I got my $15,000 there. I got another 8 here. I got the other 8 there. I want to buy my house. And so they go, okay. And you say, I found a nice 3-acre property over there. So when you move into that modular home or that piece of junk that you didn't really want to live into, but you still own the first house that you own, now you move into that one knowing that's just a year or two of pain. But at least you have an asset sitting there, and you bought it for 3% down because it was a livable home. That was done, and you're like, we're going to cramp. But we're going to immediately start building on the other side of this piece of property because this works for us. And hopefully the house that's built is on the bottom of the hill, and the house that you can build is at the top of the hill. And so that way you can, while you're living there. But the thing is when you're done with that project, you'll need to uncertify this house, and it's no longer going to be because of zoning requirements. They only allow
Well,
zoning.
I did look in zoning. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in our area, Kitsap County, I think it's 1 acre.
1
per
acre
home for residential?
Well, it depends on where you're at.
Oh,
So it
okay.
can be 1 per 5 acres out towards Seebeck. It can be, it's all over. I mean, the city you can have.
But technically, if you did find a piece of property that was
3
3 acres,
oh, yeah,
you could
subdivide.
keep that.
I mean, there's people I know that will go out. You could go find a 30-acre piece of property.
Woo.
There's areas that's subdividable only 25, 1 per 25. Okay. So there's different spots the farther you get out. But generally, you could go out there.
That's a good thing to know to look for.
Yeah, you want to always be looking at that. But you can go, look, if I got, you can't have 32 and then you need 2, let's make easy math. Let's just say it's 10 per acre. Let's say 5 per acre.
Right.
You need 11 acres. 9, you can't do it. 10, you can. 10.1, you can. 9.99 acres, you can't have 2 houses.
No.
But you can, if you had 10 acres, I mean, there's ways around it if you know who to talk to probably, but I don't want to go there. So essentially you could just, if it was 10 acres, you could say, I'll subdivide that. There's my property, and I'll resell that house out. Now I sold the house. I'm still living in my house over here. I moved in there for about a month to satisfy the bank, and now I got my 10 acres.
And I think this is a really a great thing for our listeners to hear. Is that's why you speak with a broker. That is why I have this dream. of a house that I want. It's not like a mansion house. It's just a more of an open concept that I want to like fill this house with. The house we have right now is really old and it needs a lot of work done. But I think it's really good that you pointed out, hey, there are other options too, because building, kind of like you said, is more of a 1 to 2 year mindset that you need to be in. And it's really good to hear that because my husband and I, we went to, we asked our friend if we could rent the house from him when we first got married. And he said, instead of renting it, why don't you buy it? And it was the first time we were like, can we buy a house? I mean, is that a thing? You know?
Yeah,
and
adult step.
apparently we could. So now I feel like I'm in that same spot again, listening to you say, why wouldn't you buy another house instead of locking down all your money? And I'm thinking, can I buy 2 houses at the same, you know?
Yeah, no, that's
So
really
I mean,
good.
there was an 18-year-old the other day that told me, well, I don't have any idea how to buy stock. I'm like, it's so simple. You know,
pull out your phone.
it really is. It's
Yeah.
just a lot of times we tell ourselves no, and that's why I talk about the doing.
Yeah.
But also you got to have these people that trust you and tell you all the options,
Yes.
and they don't get in your way and say this is the right one for you. You're going to decide what you want to do. But my job is to tell you the different options around there, and then see what as you're on your way what lines up.
Right. And I do love that about you, because nothing you said today was, this is what you need to do. This is how this is
This is an
working.
option,
You're
yeah.
like, can I
mean,
just present another idea?
The key in building wealth, and honestly, like a Rich Dad Poor Dad is a particular book that many people will praise or say it's a good book, and it has some very good principles. It's about your net worth.
Yeah.
And so by doing this, as long as you got enough rent to cover that or enough income in these sort of things, then you should hold on to that property and then grow your net worth by 2. The other way, you sell out your net worth, you take your $150,000, and in the end of 3 years, if you finish your project, all on track, how much is the house worth? $500,000. How much are you into it for? $500,000.
Right.
Your net worth has not changed over 3 years, and you can see the difference in these plans. I mean, you're talking about $100,000 difference in a short 5-year period, and you really didn't do any work. And that's the key. You didn't go out and like do a bunch of podcasts. And do,
That's really good. That's really good, Brett.
I think that we're going to continue. I
Yeah.
will keep you guys posted. This has been a wealth of information. Found out I did something illegal 4 years ago, but
Kylie, hey, I want to say thank you. Like,
Yes.
this is awesome that you were willing to come on the show and go like, hey, here's where I'm at in life, and here's what you know. So I want to say thank you to
Yes.
you, Brett. Any parting thoughts, like, and just in general, is there anything else that you want to add to the end of this conversation before we sign off here today?
No, I think it was just more of a conversation. So I think we pretty much, you let me pretty much go.
Yeah, we just wanted to. Yeah, this is real world. This is a real world situation.
Yeah.
This is we're in the midst of it.
And
So
and
we'll keep
it's
people updated.
One of those focuses, I would say, you look at all these sparkly things around you and these Teslas and these other things that are pulling you towards them, you keep your net worth growing. And that net worth will adjust. And if the world collapses, you're going to have that much more than you would have had if you didn't have anything. So it's kind of like, when everything gets cut in half, well, you have half of what you had. And if somebody didn't have half, they had half. And so remember, that net worth is very important. And that's what will build wealth. And that's the thing that Rich Dad, Poor Dad kind of will teach you in that book. It really, I've sent some clients to go read that book, and wow. And I'm like, yeah, it does help you understand
principles.
the principles. And I'm not saying go out and leverage everything. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is the mindset of that book really helps people go, oh, I get it. So, if there was a quick read you wanted to do, that's probably would be a good link on our.
Yeah, it's a super easy book to read, and really good principles. I remember reading as well. So as always, just want to thank our sponsors, one of which is the Creative Consortium. It's the place that we get to hang out and shoot this podcast every single episode. So we thank them. They're in Paulsbo, Washington, and also want to remind you that lots of resources are sitting on our website, which is strategyinvestment.net. And if you got an idea or a question that you would like us to address on the show, please go to that website. There's a contact form. We'd love to hear from you, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Hey, listeners, this is Jason from the Strategy Investment Podcast. Just one last thing. Hey, today we talked about a lot of different concepts and some ideas for Kylie. If you're in a situation where you need some advice, we have brokers that are willing to talk to you. All you have to do is go to the website, strategyinvestment.net. There's a contact form. There are some brokers that would love to talk to you and help you out wherever you are.